You've done everything right. You got the degree, you landed the job, you're saving in your bank account. So why do you still feel that cold knot in your stomach every time you see a restructuring headline on LinkedIn? It's because deep down, you know the old 3-month rule is a lie. It was built for your parents' world, not for 2026. One medical emergency or one bad Tuesday morning call and your entire responsible life can vanish in weeks. You don't need more savings, you need a fortress. Today, I'm using the latest 2026 healthcare and job data to show you the actual cost of survival. It's higher than you think, but I'm going to show you exactly how to hit it. It's a Tuesday morning, nothing special. You're having your tea, scrolling through reels, totally unbothered. And then your phone rings. It's your boss. Hey, listen, we're restructuring the team. Your last day's Friday. Click. The call ends. And for a second, you're just sitting there, holding your cup of tea, staring at nothing. And your first thought, before the shock, before the anger, before literally anything else, is how long can I actually survive? You open your bank app, you look at the number, and you realize you have no idea if that number is enough. No idea if that covers 2 months or 2 weeks. No idea what you actually need to feel safe. If that feeling of not knowing hit a little too close to home, this video is for you because today we are going to fix that permanently. I'm Rohan and I spend way too much time thinking about emergency funds. Seriously, I've run the numbers so many times for so many different people salaried employees, freelancers, small business owners, people in their 20s with zero savings, people in their 40s who thought they had it figured out that I've basically become obsessed with this one question. How much cash do you actually need sitting around before the universe decides to test you? And the answer, as you will discover in the next 12 minutes, is probably not what any financial influencer has ever told you. Because most of what you've heard about emergency funds is either oversimplified, outdated, or completely ignores how money actually works in India in 2026. If you're someone who has a number in their savings account that they kind of call their emergency fund, but honestly has no clue if it's the right number, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Let's get into it. Okay, so you've definitely heard the rule. It's everywhere. Keep 3 to 6 months of expenses saved as your emergency fund. Your parents say it, every personal finance article says it. Even your bank's app probably has a little calculator for it. And look, it's not wrong exactly, but it is dangerously incomplete. And in 2026 in India, with the specific economic reality we are living in right now, it can actually hurt you. Here's the thing. That rule was invented in the United States in the 1990s for a workforce where most people had stable salaried jobs with benefits, low inflation, and minimal health emergencies derailing their finances. Does that describe your life? Because it does not describe most people I talk to in India. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Let's talk about what is actually happening in the Indian economy right now, because the numbers are genuinely eye-opening. First, job security. According to the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, urban unemployment in India hovered around 7.5 to 8.3% through 2025 and into early 2026. That's the official number. The real picture, when you include underemployment and the gig economy workers who aren't technically unemployed but are barely making consistent income, is significantly worse. Second, the gig economy explosion. According to Niti Aayog projections, the Indian gig workforce is rapidly expanding toward 23.5 million workers, that is 23.5 million workers by the end of this decade. Zomato delivery, Ola rides, freelance projects, content creation, consulting, if you're in any of these spaces, and more people are, the 3 months expenses rule is not built for your income pattern at all. Third, and this one physically hurts me every time I say it, out-of-pocket healthcare expenditure. India ranks among the highest in the world for out-of-pocket health spending as a percentage of total health expenditure. As of 2025, the NHA accounts data puts this at roughly 47 to 50%, meaning nearly half of every rupee spent on healthcare in this country comes directly from someone's pocket. Not insurance, not employer benefit, their own savings. And here's the kicker. The average hospitalization cost in India, not in a fancy private hospital, just average, crossed 45,000 to 60,000 rupees per episode in metro cities in 2025. For anything serious, a cardiac procedure, a surgery, or a complicated delivery, we're talking 2 to 5 lakh rupees easily. Now tell me, does your 3 months of expenses fund cover that after it's already been wiped out by a job loss? This is where it gets really interesting. Let me build this out properly. Let's take a real person. Let's call her Ria. Ria is 29. She works as a UX designer at a mid-sized tech firm in Bengaluru. She earns 85,000 rupees per month take home. She rents a 1 BHK. She's got a two-wheeler loan. She's single, no dependents yet. The standard advice says, calculate your monthly expenses, multiply by 3 to 6, done. So let's do that. Ria's monthly expenses. Rent, 18,000 rupees. Groceries and food, 8,000 rupees. Two-wheeler EMI, 4,500 rupees. Utilities, subscriptions, internet, 3,500 rupees. Transport and fuel, 3,000 rupees. Personal care, clothing and miscellaneous, 5,000 rupees. Total monthly spend, 42,000 rupees. Standard advice says save 42,000 rupees multiplied by 3 equals 1,26,000 rupees minimum. 6 months, 2,52,000 rupees. Now you might be thinking, okay Rohan, that sounds reasonable. What's the problem? The problem is that this calculation forgets 4 massive categories that every single Indian person faces. Number 1, job search costs. In 2026, switching jobs in India is not free. Resume revamps, LinkedIn premium, interview prep courses, maybe relocating. Budgeting even 15,000 to 25,000 rupees for this is not overdoing it. Number 2, the income gap delay. Even if Ria lands a new job in 2 months, there is typically a 30 to 45 days notice period, plus the new employer's joining date delay. Then salary arrives at end of month. Realistically, she could go 3 to 4 months with zero income even with a successful job search. Number 3, mental health spending. We don't talk about this enough. When you're financially stressed, you spend more. On food delivery because you can't be bothered to cook, on stress shopping, on going out just to feel normal. A 15 to 20% buffer on top of your basic expenses during an emergency period is realistic, not extravagant. Number 4, and this is the big one, the medical wildcard. Ria has basic health insurance from her company, but that insurance, it ends the day her employment ends. Now she's job hunting and uninsured, and any hospitalization in this window is 100% out of pocket. So let's redo Ria's real emergency fund number. Base expenses multiplied by 5 months, 2,10,000 rupees. Stress spending buffer 15%, 31,500 rupees. Job search costs 20,000 rupees. Basic medical buffer 75,000 rupees. Individual health insurance premiums for transition period 18,000 rupees 6 months. Total 3,54,500 rupees. That is almost 3.55 lakh rupees. Not 1.26 lakh rupees, not 2.52 lakh rupees, 3.55 lakh rupees for a single person renting in Bengaluru. And here's what most people don't realize. That number changes dramatically based on your life situation. This is where the generic advice completely falls apart and where you need to start thinking in a personalized way. Let me give you 5 variables that should change your emergency fund target significantly. Variable 1, income stability. If you're a government employee with permanent job status, your base number is lower. You have job security, often have a defined pension structure and healthcare coverage. 3 months of expenses might genuinely be enough, honestly. But if you're a freelancer, a startup employee pre-Series A, someone in sales with variable commission income, or in any gig-adjacent role, you need a minimum of 6 to 9 months because your income isn't just stopping in a crisis. It's been variable already. You need a bigger buffer. Variable 2, dependence. Ria is single, fine, but if you have parents who depend on you financially and multiple demographic surveys consistently show that over 50% of urban Indian working millennials contribute financially to their parents or extended family, then your emergency fund needs to account for their regular expenses too. School fees if you have kids, medical expenses for aging parents, add these in. Variable 3, city and cost of living. Living in Mumbai or Delhi, the per-day cost of survival is just objectively higher. Global cost of living databases like Mercer and Numbeo consistently show that Mumbai's housing and basic living costs are 20 to 30% higher than Tier 2 cities like Jaipur or Coimbatore. Same savings target in Mumbai buys you significantly less protection. Variable 4. Existing debt. If you have a home loan EMI, your emergency fund must include at minimum 3 months of those EMIs, because missing even one mortgage payment in India can trigger penal interest, credit score damage, and in extreme cases, legal proceedings within 90 days. This is non-negotiable. Variable 5. Health risk. Do you or anyone in your household have a chronic condition? Diabetes, hypertension, thyroid issues, these are not rare anymore. As of 2025, the Indian Council of Medical Research data shows that India now has over 100 million diabetics. If you're managing chronic health in your family, your medical buffer should be at least 1 to 1.5 lakh rupees, not 75,000 rupees. Now here's something that no spreadsheet can capture, and I want to spend a minute on this because it's honestly the part of personal finance that changes people's lives the most. The goal of an emergency fund is not just to cover expenses, it is to change how you make decisions under pressure. Think about this. When you're financially insecure, when you're one bad month away from panic, you make different decisions. You take a job you hate because you can't afford to negotiate. You stay in a terrible relationship because you're financially dependent. You stay silent when your boss is wrong because you're terrified of getting fired. You skip the doctor's visit because it's probably nothing. Research consistently shows that financial insecurity reduces cognitive bandwidth. You spend so much mental energy worrying about money that your ability to think clearly, make good decisions, and take smart risks is genuinely impaired. The emergency fund isn't just money, it's mental RAM. It's the thing that lets you think clearly. And here's what most people don't realize about the psychology of saving. There's a number in your head, even if you've never written it down, where you feel safe. For some people, it's 50,000 rupees. For some, it's 5 lakh rupees. For some, it's 20 lakh rupees. Whatever your number is, until you hit it, there is low-grade financial anxiety running in the background of your life all the time, like a browser tab you never close. The goal of this video is to help you figure out what that number should actually be. Not the generic number, your number. Okay, so you have a number now, or you're building toward one. Now let's talk about where to keep it. Because savings account is the most common answer, and I'm going to be blunt, it's also one of the worst answers. Here's the thing about a standard savings account in India in 2026. Your average savings account is paying 2.75 to 3.5% interest. Meanwhile, the RBI's retail inflation print through 2025 averaged around 4.7 to 5.1%. Do the math. Your emergency fund in a savings account is losing purchasing power every single month. So, what's the solution? I use what I call the 3 bucket system. Bucket 1, the immediate access layer. Keep 1 to 2 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account. In 2026, the best small finance banks, ESAF, Unity, Suryoday, are offering 7 to 8% on savings deposits for higher balances. IDFC First, Jana Small Finance Bank, all paying well above nationalized bank rates. This is your I need cash by tomorrow money. Accessible instantly, no lock-in. Bucket 2, the core layer. Keep 2 to 3 months of expenses in liquid mutual funds. In 2026, the top liquid funds, Parak Liquid Fund, HDFC Liquid Fund, ICICI Pru Liquid, are delivering annualized returns of 7 to 7.5%. Redemption is credited to your bank account in 1 business day. SEBI regulations mandate T+1 settlement for liquid funds. Your money is working while it's waiting, and you can get it out faster than most people realize. Bucket 3, the extended buffer. Keep your remaining emergency fund in an ultra-short duration fund or an FD ladder with quarterly maturity. You're not touching this unless it's a genuine long-tail emergency. The slightly longer access timeline is fine, because if you're reaching into bucket 3, you've had at least a few weeks of warning. Returns here are around 7.5 to 8.5% depending on the instrument. The point is this: your emergency fund should never be idle. Every single rupee should be earning as close to inflation matching returns as possible while still being accessible when you need it. Alright, let's bring this together. Here is your actual action plan. 5 steps. Do these this week. Step 1. Calculate your real monthly survival number. Not what you spend, what you need to not fall apart. This means rent or mortgage, EMIs, utilities, groceries, transport, essential subscriptions. Cut the extras. No dining out, no Amazon impulse buys. What is the bare minimum you need to not lose your home, your vehicle, your health? Write that number down. Step 2. Apply your life multiplier. Government employee, low debt, no dependence, multiply by 3. Salaried, private sector, moderate debt, parents dependent, multiply by 5. Freelancer, variable income, kids or aging parents, any health conditions, multiply by 7 to 9. This gives you your target range. Step 3. Add your non-monthly emergencies. Health buffer. Minimum 75,000 rupees if you're relatively healthy and insured. Minimum 1.5 lakh rupees if you have uninsured dependents or chronic conditions. Job search buffer. 15,000 to 30,000 rupees depending on your field. Home emergency buffer. If you own property, electrical failure, plumbing. Keep 25,000 to 50,000 rupees earmarked. Step 4. Check your current number. Open your bank app right now or after this video. What do you actually have in liquid or near liquid form? How close are you to your target? Most people discover they're either way below, which is scary but now you know, or they've been hoarding cash unnecessarily in a low yield account, which is also a problem. Step 5. Set up the 3 buckets. Open a high yield savings account this week if you don't have one. Set up a liquid fund STP from your salary. Automate your build up. Even 5,000 to 10,000 rupees per month going into your emergency fund automatically means that within a year, most people in the 50,000 to 80,000 rupees salary range can reach a meaningful buffer. Now you might be thinking, Rohan, I don't have money to build an emergency fund. I'm literally living paycheck to paycheck. I hear you, and I want to be honest. If you're genuinely in a paycheck to paycheck situation, this is not a willpower problem. The cost of living in Indian cities has increased faster than salaries for a significant portion of the workforce. That's real. But here is what I've seen work consistently: the mini emergency fund. Before you build the full 6 or 7 month buffer, build 25,000 rupees. Just 25,000 rupees. That's it. That covers a busted phone, a hospital visit for a minor issue, a bike breakdown. It breaks the cycle of small emergencies wiping you out and forcing you into debt. Once that 25,000 rupees is sitting there and you feel that tiny bit of stability, the psychological shift is remarkable. You start making slightly better decisions. You negotiate a little harder. You start finding 2,000 rupees a month to add to it. The first 25,000 rupees is the hardest. After that, it compounds, psychologically even more than financially. Another objection I get is, I have investments, my mutual funds are my backup. Look, I understand the logic, but here's the brutal reality. Market emergencies and life emergencies are perfectly calibrated to happen at the same time. Think about it. Job losses spike when the economy is down. When is the economy down? When markets are down, which means when you most need to liquidate your investments, they are at their lowest value. You sell units at a loss, you pay short-term capital gains tax, and you get less money than you thought. An emergency fund is insurance. It protects your investments from being disturbed at the worst possible time. Here's the last thing I want to leave you with, and this is the insight that genuinely changes how people relate to money. An emergency fund is not about pessimism. It is the single most optimistic financial move you can make. Because here is what it actually enables. When you have 8 months of runway sitting in your buckets, earning 7%, you can negotiate your salary without fear because you can walk away. You can start that side business without betting the rent money on it. You can say no to a toxic client because you don't need them for survival. You can invest more aggressively in your long-term portfolio because you're not dipping into it during a down month. You can take a month off between jobs to upskill because you have the runway. The emergency fund is not the boring defensive part of personal finance. It is the foundation on which every bold financial decision you make becomes possible. In a country where multiple financial security indices show that over half of the working population is vastly underprepared for a sudden financial shock, having this foundation makes you genuinely exceptional. It makes you someone who can take smart risks, weather the inevitable bad luck, and build actual long-term wealth. So, let's go build it. Calculate your number, set up your buckets, and if you found this useful, I would genuinely appreciate a thumbs up. It helps this content reach the people who need it most. I'll see you in the next one.